Hi, I'm Beth Genly, your host for enjoying the holidays this year, reducing holiday stress. That's the topic of our spotcast this time around. And I am delighted to welcome Leah Carver. Leah Carver is a spa wellness coach. And Leah, that sounds so awesome. I'm dying to know what that means. And she's also the author of the international best-selling book, Undoing Hashimoto's, and her latest book, Biohacking of the Ancients, which also sounds incredibly cool. She's a successful entrepreneur. Leah has seen firsthand the many ways spa and yoga can promote health, healing, and a happy life. Leah lives in Jupiter, Florida, on a small bonsai farm with her husband, two daughters, dogs, cat, chickens, and the occasional chaos. Leah Carver, welcome to the Spotcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you all today.
Great. So Leah, tell us a little bit about why you wrote these two books and why you're interested in reducing stress.
Yeah, so I learned really firsthand the effects that stress have on us and our health. And I was actually teaching, wellness at the time. I was teaching spa and I was teaching yoga and mindfulness techniques. But at the same time, I was balancing a career and two children and a husband and, chauffeur and all the other jobs and hats that we wear as moms. And I was really putting myself last constantly, always taking care of everybody else and, doing the things for myself only when and if I had the time kind of thing. And so I got really quite sick. I got a virus, and after the virus, I went into full autoimmune kind of spiral, was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And it took me a while to kind of find my grounding again and figure out that most important was me. Because when I showed up for anything from this empty place where my energy was down, I wasn't able to show up authentically. I wasn't able to take care of anybody the way I wanted to take care of anybody. And I just found myself really struggling to be in integrity with myself. And so I realized that I literally had to just flip the paradigm. I had to make myself most important. I had to, fill my own well. And then from there, I was able to take care of everybody else and have the energy to do it really in a way that represented who I was and what I wanted to do.
Wow, that sounds like quite the journey. And there are many of us, I think, who've had illness come and hit us like a brick on the side of the head. Hello, wake up, things need to change. And I think part of that happens because we are so stubborn that we miss the earlier signals, and it needs a brick to get our attention.
It's so true. I mean, I always prided myself on how strong I was. I'm like this strong woman. I can do this. I can do it all. And it really took, being kind of brought to my knees for me to stop and pay attention and for me to realize oh, there is another way. I don't have to sacrifice my own health. I don't have to sacrifice myself. I can do both.
Whoa, okay, intense. So thinking about that story and that concern as we come into the holidays, where it's the beginning of November now, and we're coming up on Thanksgiving and the December holidays and then New Year's and resolutions, I think people feel a lot of extra stress around this time. So I'm wondering kind of how you would approach that.
Yeah. So again, I think for me, what I've really learned is that instead of doing everything by somebody else's demands, you have to really recognize what's going to work for me and making a plan kind of before you go into it. So it's not it feels like the holidays do creep up on us, and yet we still have this understanding that in a week from now it's going to be Thanksgiving, or in a month from now it's going to be this holiday. And so how do we make sure that we're not overextending ourselves? How do we set boundaries that really honor us being able to show up in a way that so we can enjoy it? Because what's the point if we're not enjoying it, right?
I think people would argue that some of those parties are necessary for work, and maybe they're planning parties that are necessary for work to promote the brand or whatever. So people would say, it's not even about me enjoying it, it's what I do for work. So how do we address that?
So I think, my philosophy on work is if you're not enjoying it, it doesn't work for you, right? It doesn't work for your business because there's an energy behind who you are, and at least how you want to live. I mean, if you want to live this world that's like stress driven, and you don't mind that you're not happy, and you don't mind that you're exhausted, then that's great. Keep doing that. But if you're recognizing that something has to give, that there has to be a different way, it really starts with, for me, at least knowing very clearly what my values are. So I always, when I work with my clients, we come up with a list of their 4 values, their 4 core values. Of course, we have more than 4, but the core values. And I call those a value compass, because they help us know when to say no, when to say yes, and how to really navigate our lives in a way that has it's not just like on a whim, oh, I don't feel like going to that, or I feel like going to that. You have to ask yourself, is it in alignment with who I am? Is it in alignment with what I represent? And if we don't know who we are or what we represent, then we usually kind of get flung about like a pinball machine or something.
Yeah, too true. So value compass, that sounds really interesting in terms of, I'm visualizing them at the 4 points of the compass now, and kind of, do I want to go this way or that way? Can you talk just a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I think that part of the stress that we really go through in life is that we don't always know exactly where we're trying to go. And so we'll end up, driving all over the place, or ending up all over the place, just reacting to life. We kind of stay in this reaction space. And the compass, the values, really help you know exactly where you're going. And if you want to make a detour, you know why you want to make the detour. Wait, this is really speaking to me. So let me give you an example. My, 4 values are service, integrity, love, and connection. And those 4 values, as much as they're about other people, the first thing that they're about is me. Like, how do I show up completely in service to myself? Am I in integrity? Am I doing the things that I say I do? Am I, taking care of myself the way that I should be taking care of myself? Am I feeling connected? Am I feeling, really connected to the people in my life that matter, and to my soul? Do I know what's important to me? And of course, love. Love for me is a grounding force. And it was a reason for me previously to kind of fall off track, because it was about loving everybody else. And so, now it's like, are you loving yourself? Are you loving yourself well? And by following those 4 directions, I pretty much can answer, like, this party is, if I get invited to a holiday party or something like that, I can say, okay, is this in service to me? Is it in service to my work? Is it in integrity? Am I already overextended, or am I not? Is this making sense to you?
Yes,
it really
very much
helps
so.
me. And then when I have to say no, I don't feel guilty about it. It's literally like, yeah, this doesn't make sense for me to do this right now because I'm overextended, or because of this. And so it's such a wonderful thing to have a guiding point. And it takes you away from it being an emotional response, right? It's not like, oh, but I really love those people and I want to go. It's more like, okay, but Leah, you have to, love yourself, and you haven't taken any nights to take care of yourself. So maybe you need, to honor that before you honor those people,
Beautiful. I love that. Can you talk about that philosophy a little bit in relation to gifts as well as parties?
To gifts as well as parties. Yeah, I mean, I think usually, the really interesting thing about gifts is what drives us to get the gift, right? And while it's the values, what I usually say is, what it love that you're buying the gift from, or is it fear, right? Is it fear that you're not enough, and so you're trying to overcompensate, or can it just be a really simple gesture? And sometimes the most loving gifts to me are the loving ones, right? Like the things that you've thought about, and they're not expensive, but they're meaningful. And so using that as a tool as well, to really decide how you're spending your time even, right? Because we can spend all kinds of time trying to buy the perfect gift or trying to get the right gift. And sometimes the best gift would be your time.
Yeah, a tough one for some of our people, but absolutely, yeah. So when we talked before, we also talked about making New Year's resolutions now. And
Yeah.
and you had kind of a whole philosophy behind that. And I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit too.
Of course, of course. So, I mean, as we're in fall, it's a great time to begin letting things fall away, like literally allowing things that haven't served you before to fall away, just like nature lets that happen with the leaves falling. And so as we begin to let things fall away, it's an opportunity for us to get reflective on what is it that we want, what seeds do we want to plant, what do we want to start to grow that will come forward in the future. And a lot of times, I find what happens on New Year's Eve is people are, going out on New Year's Eve, and they're staying out until after midnight, obviously, staying up late, having some drinks, and then they wake up the next morning and they're like, okay, now I'm going to be this completely different person today. And, usually I think most of us fail at New Year's resolutions, and then we feel bad about it, and we kind of take that as an opportunity to tell ourselves how bad we are or how much we suck, or, speak badly to ourselves. But if we can kind of set ourselves up for failure, for not failure, but for success, by embracing what it is that we want to create, going into the new year, it feels like this wonderful opportunity to really get introspective and really not just create it overnight, right? So it's not like tomorrow I have to be a completely new person, but we know the general direction in which we're going. And so I think even with New Year's resolutions, to say, oh, through the month of January, I'm going to be working towards this. And as I get to that place, it's like come spring, hopefully we'll have these beautiful resolutions that are popping up and creating real change in our life, as opposed to just inflicting disciplines upon ourselves.
Inflicting discipline. I love that phrase. I'm thinking that this moral compass might be moral. Did I say moral? The values compass would be incredibly useful in that process.
Exactly, because it's not just pulling something out of the air, like, oh, I wish I was thinner, for example. Like that's something people do for New Year's, right? I'm going to lose weight. Instead of it just being like this specific goal, it's like, but is it in alignment with who you are? Do you want to lose weight because you don't feel well? Or do you just want to lose weight because somebody else thinks you should? Right? Because it's going to be a lot easier to do if it's because you don't feel well, because then it's like, no, this is important to me. I want to create health. I want to create wellness, as opposed to just, again, inflicting like this idea of what I think somebody else thinks I should be upon myself. Which creates so much stress, right? Like how to stress yourself out. Try to be what other people want you to be, right? Because that's pretty much not going to happen. And so when we try to reach somebody else's idea of perfect, it's just an opinion. So it's not even real. And that creates so much stress and so much strain and so much pressure. But when we have this value compass and we know what we're working towards and why we're working towards it, it really gives you an energy behind what you're doing that is love. It's not fear, and it's not having to operate from this place of lack, which again can create so much stress.
Beautiful. I love that. So I'm kind of getting out of all of this that that you're seeing the holidays as a time for reflection and as a time for slowing down rather than speeding up. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
Well, I think intrinsically, like that's who we are if we followed the clock of nature, right? It gets darker earlier, the days are shorter. Um, the plants go dormant. Like it really is this opportunity to get quite internalized and pay attention to who we are and really ask ourselves some of these deep questions. Of course, the social aspect of it kind of goes in the complete opposite direction, and everybody's having parties and things like that. So I think it's both. It's learning to absolutely use the darkness of the season to go inside and spend some time with yourself and find out what it is that you want to create in the new year, and to be willing to play a little bit as long as it's within your boundaries, and again you're not feeling overwhelmed by it. Yeah.
Beautiful. I think that's very wise words. I'm loving it. I understand that you also have, well, before we even get to that, do you have any more that you want to dig into this topic before we?
I think that the main thing that I just really want to highlight is stress usually shows up as an indicator for us that we're out of balance, right? It's not something bad per se in and of itself. It's just the opportunity for us to make a change instead of that natural tendency that's like, I'm just going to push through. I'm going to push through. It's an opportunity for us to see like, wow, I'm really feeling stressed. I'm feeling it physically, I'm feeling it mentally, I'm feeling it emotionally. And instead of just pushing through, can I listen to it? Can I listen to the stress and say, wait, something's actually asking for my attention here, and use it as an opportunity to evolve, to grow, and gain, more access to our power.
I'm loving that. Instead of having the brick come and hit us on the head, if we're listening and paying attention, oh, here's some stress. What is it telling me? Why is this stressful for me? Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. That's great. Okay, so I understand you also have a free gift for our watchers.
I do. I wanted to give everybody a PDF copy of my book, Undoing Hashimoto's, which actually comes out in bookstores on the 13th of November. So that's really exciting, for me. And even if you don't have Hashimoto's or another immune disorder, it's a great book on just how to relax, like really how to build good coping skills for stress, how to listen to stress, what kind of actions to take, and really support yourself, because stress is one of these things that I think we're all could agree 100% we're going to have stress in our lives. The question is, how do you want to deal with it? Do you want to just react to it and be in this reactionary place, or do you want to learn some really good skills on how to show up fully and actually hear what it's asking you to hear?
That is a beautiful gift. I know there is a big overlap between I'm going to rephrase that. A lot of people who are watching are also dealing with chronic illness of various kinds, or acute illness that pops up and goes down and pops up again. Mm-hmm. So I think that is a source of stress for many, many of us. And on top of that, even if we are lucky enough to not have any of that going on, learning how to relax and learning how to pay attention to the signals is something that I strongly recommend as well. So I think this is a beautiful gift. I'm highly excited about it. And the link for it will be directly below this video. So people can go ahead and click on that and download it as soon as you're done watching. So,
awesome.
Beautiful.
That's great.
Well, Leah Carver, thank you so much for your time and your words of wisdom. I've really enjoyed this interview, and I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Beth. It's been really my pleasure. I think it's really important message that you're getting out to the world, and I support you, and I support everybody that's listening today. So thanks for being part of the conversation.
How beautiful. Thank you, Leah.